This episode features First Nations knowledge as told by First Nations storytellers. The producers recognise that the stories and information contained in this episode are owned and maintained by First Nations communities. We thank them for their generosity in sharing their stories for everyone to hear. Listeners, please also take care. This program contains the recorded voices and names of people who may since have passed away. Welcome to the Landbridge podcast. I'm Lucinda Horrocks. Bunurong or Bunurong country is in coastal Victoria in southeastern mainland Australia. It spans westward from Wilson's Promontory, which is mainland Australia's southernmost point in Victoria, and the Bunurong call it Wamoon. Bunurong country includes lands and waters around Phillip Island, French Island, Western Port Bay and parts of Port Phillip Bay, taking in the southeastern parts of modern metropolitan Melbourne. In this episode, through a conversation with two fabulous Bunurong women storytellers, Aunty Gail Dawson and Tasma Walton, we get an insight into dreaming stories which deal with time and place in a different way to Western understandings, and which stretch to the story of Bass Strait through deep time. Thank you, Aunty Gail and Tasma, for letting me join you.
You're more than welcome, Lucinda. It's always good for women to work together to put different perspectives out there, especially the perspectives of First Nations people, because it adds something to the Australian community. It adds something, it's like a gift, I always think. The same as there's the gift of phones and cars and everything. Here's what we give back. Actually, while we're on it, I'll show you something. I know this is a bit of an aside, but this is one of the women's hand tools from Point Nepean. So it's they're very hard to find, but it's been baked and shaped to the woman's hand.
Oh wow!
So our ancestors held that. Push it round on your hand until you feel. You might have to turn it upside down or the other way, and you'll get a space where it's your fingers and your thumb.
So what I'm holding now is it's a sandy coloured tube of rock or cement that's moulded to my hand.
Yeah.
It's the size of my fist. And I can wrap my fingers around it.
It has a hole through the middle, so it's used to carry coals and carry your fire as you go, and you just keep going like that. And it's used to pound. Yeah.
I can feel the weight of it. I can see the hole in the middle. I'm amazed that there would be coals and that you could keep a fire going.
Yeah. Oh, that has not been finished. Like we might make the hole a bit bigger or... Yeah.
It's amazing. And that is from Point Nepean.
Yeah. Because the women every year or so when they came there, they would make the tools and leave them there for next time when you come back. Like grinding stones, you don't carry them with you, obviously. So the tools are left there, and every now and then the ancestors give us one like this, and we're just like, wow. Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's made of sand or...
Yeah, it's a clay sand, because that area's is ochre cliffs, so there must be some kind of clay in there.
Yeah. And then fired.
Yeah.
Half.
It might even have like crushed coral in it. I don't really know. I'm making that up because I don't need to know.
You just know it as a gift.
Yeah, a gift from the ancestors.
So tell me about Bunurong country.
Shall we start with, okay, you tell the general thing, I think, Tasma, do you think?
Well, I guess for Bunurong, Bunurong country, it's we are a saltwater clan. We have one of our longest boundaries is with Warayan, is with the ocean. So we are absolutely defined by that as a people. And our understanding is that we are Warayan Bagaruk, women of the sea. So it was our women who would dive, like skin dive to incredible depths for things like abalone. We, you know, the ocean was gifted to us through mother whale as our, you know, resource pool. And so the women would gather abalone, crayfish, all sorts of manner of shellfish.
The kelp and sea vegetables.
That's right.
Yeah.
And a lot of beautiful stories that we have around that process involves, you know, some of our sort of stories around women of the kelp or women of the sea, or what I like to call wirap garok, fish women, and how they would assist the women who were diving for abalone by making sure they didn't get tangled into in the giant sea forests of kelp that we had lining all of our coastal areas, and they would make sure that the currents stayed favourable. And a story that my nana passed down to me was that the abalone shell is one of the, you know, the scales of a wirap garok, and they would, you know, place it onto the rock and let the creatures grow as a, you know, a gift and a resource for the Bunurong women.
Yeah, like that Adam was showing us today, where you start the plant on the platform with the paper bark.
Yes.
So the abalone shell was the, what would you call it? Like, what did he call it? It's like a mother, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He called it a food bank or something like that. But yeah, I'm thinking of it as a mother,
the bed, like
for the coral and the shells and everything to grow on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have some beautiful, you know, big kind of granite. Is it granite or basalt rocks around? What did you say? You know, like off Milau, off Phillip Island, off...
Yeah,
you know,
and off Wamum, Wilson's
exactly.
Prom. Probably granite. It would probably be granite.
And they would be... They're sort of emblematic of the whale.
The entrance of the creek from the beach on Wamum, Wilson's Prom. As you come in, it's part of the whale songline, and there's a whale embodied in a huge rock there on the side that reminds us and lets us sing that whale song as we're travelling through, so that we can travel safely. And it makes sure that the mother whale comes back and knows where to come. And that whole place is for the women and the whale people. And there's another story from there. So whether the land bridge is there or not there, that's part of the story, but it's not the whole story. So there's a story that sometimes it's called Lowen, probably more if it's on the Gunai Kunai or Lowengerry side. And Lowen Bunjil came out of probably a place on the land bridge around there, and came across up through Wilson's Prom with his big stick, and he called all the other helper creator beings like snake and whirlpools and the beings in the mud, you know, the slime, because there was nothing, there was chaos.
Just adjusting.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
And so walking along with his big stick, calling on the wind and the ground, and forming the mountains, and forming the rivers, and walking, crashing up and making the ocean, making all the creatures come up and form the ocean, and then last of all, making the Kulin, the people. and then everything sort of goes quiet for a little bit, and that's the start of that's one of the creation stories for the Kulin people, and that started down on Wilson's Prom.
So, whales, sea,
Yeah,
creation, kelp, women, abalone, the country, these long links.
and the country and the sea being the one. You can see that initially it's all just one thing, which is indescribable. The only word I can think of in English would be something like chaos. And don't Christians have a story like that? All is chaos and then God does something with it. So I think it's a bit of a similar idea. All is chaos and then Loan or Bunjil rises and decides to make it into something different. Yeah.
And right to say too, along with a whole host of other creation beings.
And I did say
So
that,
it's-
didn't I?
yeah.
Ancestral beings.
It's something that is almost the opposite of the kind of imported
Yes,
monotheistic idea
Yeah.
of
It's more-
Christianity, which is there is one God and usually male, or certainly
It
you know
becomes
in
male.
a patriarchy is male, whereas for our sort of idea of spiritual beliefs, there are all sorts of elements and all sorts of creation beings that play a part in building kind of the complexity of the system.
And you can't have one thing doing it. It's like we would not do something by ourselves. Like today,
No, that's you
you work
need
in a group,
community.
and you can't
Yeah.
have just one type of person or one person.
And our kind of, you know, broader spiritual beliefs, you know, emulate that idea of a community, that you are working together to continue to thrive. And, you know, there's one sort of story that's been passed down quite strongly throughout our apical ancestor line, because, you know, we have whale as our totem, is the story of Mother Whale, who, when she had her calf with her, the calf was very cheeky and was playing around while she was trying to give texture and colour to the ocean, you know, bringing animals forth from her spout. The whale, the baby kept swimming ahead, even though Mum was saying, come back, stay with me. And then in a particularly boisterous moment, Juju the whale, the baby whale, jumped out of the water and landed on the sand, landed on earth, and beached, I say herself, but it's because I'm a girl. So, and so Mother Whale had to come in and, you know, using her tail, thrashed a channel to her baby to be able to get her back into the sea. And that is part of our waterways, you know, of Western Port Bay or Wan Maring.
Yeah.
And likewise, the story that has been passed down through our family line about the filling of Nerum, or Port Phillip Bay, is part of the Mother Whale story and songline. So it was a grassy plain, long time ago, and there were many contests being fought around who was allowed to go where. And the men were doing a lot of the fighting, and the women, they could see that country was not happy with that. They were going into times of drought. Things weren't as plentiful. Many women couldn't have children. So there was this sort of reflected in country was this sense of turmoil and lack and fear. And so the women called out to one of their creation beings, Paban Betial, Mother Whale, to help. And the story that I've been told is that, you know, in the light of a full moon, mother whale thrust up from the bottom of the ocean, covered that moon, and all went dark. Hurricanes whirled around her as she landed on that grassy plain, and the earth sunk down. She called the water in and gifted that water to the women to protect, to nurture, to nourish, so that they could have nourishment from sea country. And then, you know, our women did exactly that, harvested the sea, would do that abalone diving, incredibly dangerous, but they, you know, that was part of our life. And they were capable of those sorts of things. So that's the, you know, that story, fragments of that story that have been passed down through our line as having whale as our totem, that she was this, you know, is this creation being who makes sure that the ocean warayen is plentiful and rich, and in doing so, she can then invite her kin, mothers and their whales, to rest in these waters with their babies, gather strength before they make their long migratory journey back to their ancestral home of Antarctica for the summer. So these are these whale songlines that come all the way around our continent from both sides, east and west, and meet around our country, where they gather strength, they build their resources, they feed their babies in a protected sanctuary, and then they head off to Antarctica.
And this was always the way, because people do have trade routes, they do connect, but we can see now how the storylines are connected all around the coast, and there's similarities and there's differences. There's differences. One story that most groups have is that there is the essence of the ancestors in the whale. Would you put it that way?
Yeah, yes, for sure. There's many groups have that. Many saltwater mob will have that idea.
The Nyungar Menang down King George Sound say that it is the children who are in the whale, and when the whale beaches, it's trying to come back home to you know, the other people. But we just have a naughty whale.
Well, we also have, I'm not 100% sure how much we want to talk about this, but there is also stories that talk about, so our belief system is, as you pass from your physical body, you take your journey up to sky country. That's a pretty common belief for mobs all around the continent. But for us, we call that journey karok, which is a term that describes the passageway to sky country, which is as the sun sets on the horizon out to sea, the rays that emanate from that are the pathways to sky country. And again, the story passed down through our family line is that it's the whale who will take you out to that point on the horizon across the ocean to Karak, so that you can ascend or, you know, take that next cycle of your journey to sky country and back.
Wow.
So, so the idea that we travel with the whale. You know, there's other mobs that I know of who have really similar beliefs along the east coast as well.
Yeah, they all connect.
There are engravings around cliffs sort of around New South Wales that I believe depict exactly that. There are massive, big, sort of simple whale shapes, fish shapes, with people inside them.
Being carried, the spirits.
And they're being carried, yeah.
So the land bridge, fiddling, has stories because all of a sudden, well, for the stories, the land appears and the whales are stuck, some on either side, including maybe your calf has made it through, because these changes in a song or a story might happen very, very quickly, and all of a sudden there's a blockage there. And so in the stories, the whale, mother whale, does the same thing, breaks through. And of course that lake is part of that story where she's broken through and landed and then swum through the other side.
So there's a story about the land bridge.
Yeah, of course. But the main stories that I know of are the ones between the people, because we've always said that the two places are connected. So the women that were abducted and taken there, while they were away from home, from country, and that is devastating. However, there were things there that were familiar, and they were able to continue their cultural practices. Yeah.
You said something before about when we're talking about the time of the land bridge, so the science perspective, the Western science perspective is that it was there around 70,000 years ago, and then the sea came back about 10,000 years ago. And you said something to me before we started recording, which is, of course, we have a different sense of time. Can you tell me a bit about how your perspective relates to the time?
I'll talk about every when.
Sure, yeah.
The original translation of the term where they got that idea of dream time was actually from one of the desert languages in the centre, and I think First Nation Aboriginal people have always been a bit uncomfortable with it because it makes it sound, and it will be called a myth or a legend, but it's not like that to us. It's a real story that's still happening. And looking back, many Aboriginal people now don't like that dream time term, and then they moved. Some people were saying dreaming. Now people are saying it's acceptable to say dreamings. But looking back at that word, many have recognised that it means something like every when, because it's all happening at the same time. Sometimes it's been described as circular time and sometimes as spiral. For me, I don't see any of those shapes. I just see it's all there. And was it you that said today like another dimension or those, what are they, like not quite portals, but without the portal you would move into a different like time space.
Sense of time and space, yes. Yeah.
So perhaps every when is more a description. Therefore, the song lines and the stories and the dances tell us of a time when the land bridge was there and of a time it wasn't there. And any of those stories could occur at any time. It could be from 70,000 years ago, or it could be from 10, or it could be from 1. It's a story that is. It just is.
Yes, it's moving away from the concept that we are in a linear sense of time.
Yes.
That this happens, then this happens, then this happens. It's the idea that it all happens. It is all happening, always, everywhere.
Yeah. And the
it's
past is not behind and the future in front. That's as if you're walking.
And I think that comes from the fact that even today, I believe many of us struggle to really understand just how many generations of people have been thriving on this continent. Most of the people here today might have a sense of 7 generations, 8 generations. Try 100 or more.
1,000.
Or 1,000. Like, that passage of time is so epic that it makes sense then that our collective spiritual concept of time is also epic.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way of trying to wrap your arms around just what it's like to have that long, continuous, unbroken connection with your place and your culture.
Mm.
Wow.
You have 5 minutes, just FYI.
And okay, to finish off, I'll say over the last couple of days, we've been walking on country and getting another perspective, exactly the kind of thing that you're doing, where we listen to archaeologists and heard, how they explain what we're seeing, and then we would say, well, this is what we see. And one archaeologist said, sometimes I feel uncomfortable and fraudulent because all my knowledge is from books. And my response to that is, we have had interruptions. That's just the reality of it, particularly my family, because the women were abducted and sold into slavery. And my ancestor was taken to King George Sound. So that's a massive break. And the fragments that remain have to be placed in context when we come here, so we can go, that's what that is, and then start joining the dots. And if it's practical that we mix with someone like anthropologists, archaeologists, the kind of work that you're doing, scientists, so that we can fill in those patches. Some uncles say the dreaming is not then or then, it is everywhere, and it includes skyscrapers, cities like Melbourne, it includes cars, it includes phones. All of that is part of the dreaming, and it's all meant to be, and our only job in this place is to bring us all together. That's what the old man, who is another whale man in Arnhem Land, tells me, and that's what his dead grandmother tells him to tell me. That's how big this storyline is. If I meet a whale person, we will sit and talk about how our stories connect, and it could be from anywhere where there are whale stories. So all those stories connected, and that is what he told me the one thing that we need to do.
Well, that's a beautiful thought to end on, because I know you've got to go.
Yeah.
I feel like this should be part one. Part one to be continued.
Yeah, because there is more.
That's all from Aunty Gail Dawson and Tasma Walton. What a magic conversation. Next episode, we explore the underwater world of the Bass Strait seafloor in a conversation with marine ecologist Associate Professor Neville Barrett. A range of companion media, a documentary film and other stories are freely available to read, listen to, watch and share on the website thelandbridge.au. The Landbridge digital story was produced by Wind and Sky Productions. Creative producers were me, Lucinda Horrocks, and Jarry Nemo. The credits for this episode are detailed in the podcast program notes. The project was funded by the Australian Government through the Our Marine Parks Grants Program. Until next time, thanks for listening.